Before we jump into today's episode, I'm so excited to be able to tell you that my debut book, Optimal You, Supercharge Your Energy, Strengthen Your Immunity, will be published on the 19th of November, with the Kindle edition available on the 18th for 99p for one day only, so set an alert in your diary. Optimal You is a groundbreaking guide uncovering the 8 pillars of health for supercharged energy and strengthened immunity to optimize your health and extend your health span. Delve into evidence-based strategies to optimize nutrition, balance your lifestyle, reduce toxin exposure, and address root causes of health imbalances. There's a 14-step anti-inflammatory nutrition blueprint included in the book to supercharge your mitochondria and fortify your immune system. Plus, my 4 lifestyle S's, sleep, stress, strength, and social, that form the foundation of optimal well-being. The book will help you to empower yourself with practical tools and insights to embark on a transformative journey towards the optimal version of you. You can pre-order your copy or read what people are saying about the book at optimalyoubook.com. Now let's head to today's episode. Welcome to the Good Health Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Good, a certified functional medicine practitioner, registered nutritionist, and author. In this podcast, we delve into the world of energy and immune health and wellness with positivity, from optimal health and energy to stress and burnout, right through to immune conditions such as thyroid and autoimmune disease. We deep dive into functional medicine, nutritional medicine, and lifestyle medicine, as well as the personal stories of our amazing guests, from Olympians to famous faces and guest experts from all different parts of the health and wellness world. It's time to stop letting your health hold you back and become the optimal version of you. Don't forget to come and join the conversation on Instagram at good_health, that's GOODE, or visit the website nicolegoodhealth.com to find out more. Welcome to today's episode of the Good Health Podcast. Today we're jumping into the topic of energy, and when we're in the pursuit of that optimal health, energy really stands out as a fundamental pillar. It is the invisible force that fuels our whole of our daily lives. It enables us to get out of bed, it enables us to tackle our to-do lists, and it helps us to engage with the world around us and do all the things that we want to do with our day. Without this adequate energy, even the very simplest of tasks can feel insurmountable, leaving us drained, unmotivated, and really struggling to keep pace, especially with demands of modern life. But energy is much more than just a measure of that physical stamina that we have. It's the lifeblood of our overall well-being. It powers every single cell in our body. It supports our immune system. It underpins our mental, our physical, and our emotional health. And this is why in my upcoming book, Optimal You, we look at energy and immunity. When our energy levels are optimized, we experience this ripple effect through our whole body. Everything increases. Our productivity is better. Our mood improves, and we find ourselves much more resilient in the face of challenges. In contrast, if our energy is depleted, we become a lot more susceptible to stress, to illness, to burnout, leading to that cascade of negative outcomes that can really impact every aspect of our lives. At the Good Health Clinic, we believe that energy and immunity are 2 key critical components to unlocking optimal health. And while immunity protects us from those external threats, energy is the thing that empowers us to live our life to the fullest. The 2 are very deeply interconnected, and in my book, we're going to deep dive into both of them. But in this episode today, what I really want to do is delve into the science of energy, explore how our bodies produce and regulate it at a cellular level, and have a look at how the impact of modern lifestyles are affecting our energy reserves, and highlight how that chronic stress, the poor nutrition, the lack of sleep, and everything like that is really draining our vitality. Understanding the importance of optimizing energy levels can really be the first proactive step to reclaiming our vitality, preventing illness, and enhancing our overall quality of life. So whether you're looking to boost your daily energy, you want to prevent burnout, or you've got an immune health condition and the energy is really having a negative impact on your life, this episode is going to be for you. So let's start by looking at cellular energy production. So at the heart of all of this lies this very complex and fascinating process that occurs within every cell of our body. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, but that is the production of cellular energy. This energy, which is often referred to as ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is the fuel that powers everything that we do, from breathing to thinking to running to lifting weights, doing our day-to-day activities. ATP is produced through this process known as cellular respiration. It primarily takes place in the mitochondria, these very, very small organelles that are dubbed the powerhouses of every single cell in our body. And the process of cellular respiration begins when nutrients, particularly glucose and fatty acids, are broken down during a process of glycolysis in the cell. These breakdown products are then transported into the mitochondria, and throughout the stages that this goes through, energy is extracted from these nutrients, and we can then convert ADP into ATP, and it is the ATP that is released into the cell, ready to be used as a very, very quick and efficient energy source in the body. How efficient this energy production is in our body is very heavily dependent on the health and the functionality of our mitochondria. And when mitochondria are functioning optimally, this energy production really happens seamlessly, and the body can maintain these really high levels of energy throughout the day. If the mitochondria function, however, is compromised, energy production becomes inefficient. We get feelings of fatigue, sluggishness, and that overall decreased vitality, even cognitive dysfunction. So there's lots of different things that can impair mitochondrial function, but one of the big ones is oxidative stress, which occurs when there's an imbalance between the free radicals and the antioxidants in the body. And again, we've deep dived into this in a previous episode. But all of this oxidative stress can damage that mitochondrial DNA, and that leads to this reduced efficiency in energy production. Inflammation is also a common response to injury or infection, but it can impair mitochondrial function. And that's because it disrupts the cellular environment and then increases the oxidative stress. There's also environmental toxins that we come up against every single day. So things like heavy metals, pesticides, air pollutants, they can all directly damage the mitochondria. What I want to do now is have a look at a couple of particular molecules that have an impact on this energy production. So we're going to look at NAD+ and CoQ10. So these key molecules, NAD+ and CoQ10, they play crucial roles in the efficiency of mitochondrial energy production. NAD+ is a coenzyme that is essential for this transfer of electrons that happens when we are producing ATP. So if we don't have enough NAD, the mitochondria can't produce enough ATP, and we get decreased energy levels. Now, unfortunately, as we age, and by age, I mean we get to 40, we've lost 50% of the levels of NAD in our body. But as we age, these levels naturally decline. And this can contribute to fatigue and that decreased vitality that's often associated with aging, but 50% of it's gone by 40. So we're not even talking old age. Similarly, CoQ10 is another essential component of this electron transport chain, and it acts as a shuttle. So it's transferring electrons between the different complexes. It's also a powerful antioxidant. So it's protecting mitochondria from oxidative damage. So like the NAD+, if levels of CoQ10 decrease, which they do with age, that's going to further impair mitochondrial function and energy production. Making sure that we maintain adequate levels of NAD and CoQ10 is really crucial in supporting high energy levels throughout our life. This can be achieved through various different things, so we should always look first to dietary strategies. We can look to supplementation, and there are lifestyle interventions that we can do to protect mitochondria from damage and to support their optimal function. So when we think about energy, we often focus on this physical aspect of it, having the stamina to get through the day, or the endurance to get through a workout. However, energy is much more than that. As well as physical performance, we have to consider cognitive function. We have to consider our emotional well-being. So on a physical level, yes, optimal energy means that our muscles are going to receive enough oxygen and nutrients they need to perform at their best. But then we have to think cognitively. Energy is just as crucial here. So the brain is one of the most energy-demanding organs in the body. And when our energy levels are optimized, our brains are going to function more efficiently. And that's going to lead to better focus, faster information processing, better memory retention, and enhanced problem-solving abilities. And that cognitive sharpness is going to allow us to be more productive, make better decisions, approach challenges with more clarity, do better at work, all the things that we really want to get out of life. Emotionally, we know that energy levels are tied to our mood and overall mental health. If we're feeling really, really tired, it's much easier for our mood to drop. When we've got lots of energy, we tend to have more positive emotions. So energy is really important, not just from a physical performance point of view, but from cognitive and emotional well-being as well. Additionally, energy is a crucial factor in maintaining a robust immune system. So the immune system relies on energy to produce and deploy immune cells, to fight off infections, to repair tissues. And without that sufficient energy, that immune response can become compromised. And this is where energy and immunity are inextricably linked. And this leaves us more prone to illnesses and chronic diseases. So ensuring that our energy levels are optimal, we're also protecting our immune system and making sure that we live a healthy and resilient life. The cost of having low energy in our lives is really steep. It has a huge impact on our life, and it's often underestimated. Suboptimal energy levels can significantly reduce quality of life and leave us feeling constantly fatigued, disengaged, unable to enjoy the activities that we once loved. And this persistent lack of energy can also increase stress as we struggle to carry out the demands of everything that we have placed on us today. So work, family, personal responsibilities. And over time, that creates this vicious cycle where stress actually further depletes our energy and can lead to burnout. Even worse is that inevitable consequence that we actually end up just accepting low energy as a normal part of life. And this mindset can really lead to complacency, where we ignore all the warning signs of energy depletion and fail to take action to address those underlying causes. Over time, that leads to more serious health conditions, things like chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, the development of autoimmune diseases. Accepting low energy should never be the answer. It should be seen as a sign, as a signal from your bodies that something needs to change, whether that comes from diet, from exercise, from sleep, from stress management. Something needs to change if our energy levels are not optimal. And accepting these low energy levels has become even more common in today's fast-paced world. With modern society, we live in this relentless pace of these ever-increasing expectations. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, we're just bombarded with tasks, with responsibilities. Our phones are pinging all the time. Whether it's juggling a demanding job, managing family responsibilities, staying connected with everybody, just the volume of daily activity that we have can be really overwhelming. And we can put low energy just down to that busyness. We often find ourselves just rushing around from one obligation to the next. And the workday now extends well beyond the traditional 9 to 5. It often spills over into weekends, into evenings, emails, messages constantly going off. So it's very easy for us to just sort of say it's the demands of career, it's the demands of our life that are making us tired. And these work pressures that are only ever growing, and this rise of this constant kind of connectivity that we have through our phones, through our emails, through social media, they're all playing a role in that draining of energy. But what they're really importantly doing is allowing us to ignore the signs from our bodies that fatigue is there because it's an issue. There's something that's not right. And we tend to have very little room for self-care left. So we don't take time to rest. We don't take time to restore our energy levels. We just become accustomed to this high energy demand and to having lower energy. And we don't recognize the signs of burnout anymore until it's too late. And in more recent years, burnout really has become a hugely widespread issue. It affects people from various different professions, lifestyles, and the term burnout really originally was kind of created around work, around our jobs, around how busy we were and overwhelmed we were after a busy week. But in reality, burnout is much more severe. It's now coming from work, from personal demands, from looking after aging parents, from looking after children. We've got so much pressure on us these days that burnout really comes from everywhere. You don't have to be in a high-powered job to get burnout anymore. And at the core of burnout is chronic stress. We've got this relentless pressure that really leads to this state of chronic stress where we're constantly in the fight and flight mode. And while fight or flight response is natural and it's a necessary reaction to short-term threats, when it's activated continuously over long periods of time, it really wreaks havoc on the body and on our energy levels. So this chronic stress disrupts this balance of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline in the body. And that really leads to this cascade of negative health effects. We get that feeling of persistent fatigue that really doesn't go away. We get the adrenal glands starting to produce more stress hormones. We become overworked. Our bodies just really can't keep going anymore. We may feel run down. We may start craving salty foods, sometimes sweet foods, difficulty getting out of bed in the morning, difficulty feeling motivated. All of these things play a really significant role in burnout. And it can come from lots of things. It can come from stress. It can come from poor nutrition. It can come from lack of sleep. All of these things need to be considered when we're reaching that stage. And as burnout progresses, chronic illnesses start to come into play because that burnout and that chronic stress lowers our immune system. So again, we see that energy picture really tied in with that immunity picture. And as the body just becomes more and more depleted, we're much more prone to getting things like chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal fatigue, and autoimmune disease. Chronic fatigue syndrome, also known as ME, is a complex and debilitating condition, and it's characterized by persistent and severe fatigue that does not improve with rest. Quite often that fatigue can come with a range of other symptoms, so people can, as well as that persistent exhaustion, and it is exhaustion that really, when you do rest, when you sleep, you really don't feel refreshed. Other things that start to come with that are those cognitive difficulties, so things like the brain fog, problems with memory and concentration, mental clarity, affecting day-to-day performance. as well as things like muscle pain. So quite often people with chronic fatigue may be told they've got fibromyalgia. To get a diagnosis, those symptoms must be present for at least 6 months and not be able to meet the diagnostic criteria for another medical condition. So CFS really is a condition of exclusion of other things. And we have a whole episode on chronic fatigue syndrome that you can jump back to and have a listen to. But the connection between burnout and chronic fatigue is that burnout often serves as this precursor for the development of chronic fatigue. And that progression from burnout to chronic fatigue is seen in this low-lying, sustained energy depletion that we just ignore, we accept as normal. Now, recent research has shown us that actually this mitochondrial dysfunction has a really important role to play in chronic fatigue syndrome. So mitochondria, when we get this reduced ATP production, we've seen that individuals with CFS often have significantly lower levels of this ATP, and they also have increased levels of this oxidative stress. And then if things keep getting worse, we get this chronic energy depletion that can play a really significant role in the onset of autoimmune diseases. So these autoimmune diseases, these conditions where the immune system is attacking your body's own tissue, can lead to very serious symptoms and complications. And the relationship between energy depletion and autoimmunity can be understood through various key mechanisms. So immune system dysregulation, that prolonged energy depletion and mitochondrial dysfunction can lead to an impaired immune response. And that dysregulation can cause the immune system to become hyperactive, misdirected, or sometimes underactive. And that can all contribute to immune conditions. And then the other thing we have to consider is inflammation. So chronic fatigue and mitochondrial dysfunction often result in levels of systemic inflammation. And this inflammation can further contribute towards those autoimmune processes. So it's really important that we take practical strategies for improving these energy levels. And these include things like regular exercise. It may be that we need to bring in pacing and know what type of exercise to do, particularly if you're at a certain stage of burnout, and finding out what stage of burnout you're at is really important. You can do that through getting an adrenal stress test done. Also looking at balanced nutrition. So we want an anti-inflammatory diet, an antioxidant-rich diet, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of those dark berries. We want healthy fats, so things like avocados, nuts, seeds, and those oily fish. And then we want B vitamins, so things in whole grains, lean meats, legumes, all really important for those metabolic processes. We also need to look at stress management. So things like mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing, yoga, all of these things that can help to improve our mental resilience. And that can be simple things such as hobbies, taking regular breaks, going for a walk. We also need to look at sleep and make sure that actually you're getting quality sleep, not just getting the 7 to 9 hours a night that we need, but actually getting really good quality sleep within that time. And then we can look at targeted supplements. So things like CoQ10, things like NAD, adaptogens, all of these things can really help. And if you jump below this episode, we will link to some of our favorite resources all around energy so that you can learn more about this. We'll link through to some blog posts. We can link through to other podcast episodes and also to some free resources that we have around energy for you. I hope you found this episode really helpful. I think the key message from this really has to be for you to take away, don't ignore low energy. Don't normalize it. Don't accept it as just something you have to put up with. If you want to really deep dive into energy and immunity, don't forget to get your hands on a copy of my book, which is out in November, but it is on pre-order now. So you can jump over to the website, optimalubook.com, and grab a copy. We'll be back next week with another guest episode, and I look forward to seeing you all then. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Good Health Podcast. Do share the episode with anyone you think it may benefit, and help us to spread the word on all things health and wellness by rating, liking, or subscribing to the podcast. If you want more, you can listen to more episodes on your favourite podcast app, or sign up to my newsletter for my favourite tips, tricks, health advice, brands, recipes, and more at nicolegoodhealth.com/newsletter. Have a lovely week. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Good Health Podcast.